Welcome to rpgamepire. I'm David. Thank you for joining me in this how to play video of War of the Worlds, The New Wave. If you haven't had a chance yet, please check out our playthrough video and our review. So this is a Kickstarter game that Julie and I backed. And so some of the pieces I'll be using, if I can fit this in here, are for the Kickstarter backers. So I'll explain here right now what the differences are. So one, I believe the regular edition has cubes, but they have these little meeples here for this edition. They have standees for these miniatures instead. And the buildings, you do get the tokens here, which pop out. You get the tokens, but for the Kickstarter edition, you get these 3D buildings. And you'll see right here you have more miniatures. The tokens will be the same. Now the cards, I'm not playing with any of the Kickstarter exclusive cards. The board is the same. And we're not playing with the expansion, the Ireland expansion. So now that you know what pieces that we're playing with, what the differences are, the object of War of the Worlds is a two-player, asymmetrical. You have humans versus aliens. The aliens will win if they destroy all 30 civilians. And they're placed here on the board where these three red squares are, because those correspond to the squares you get in the regular edition. So you'll see they're spread out. There's 30 of them. That's how the aliens win if they destroy the 30 civilians. The humans win if they do 30 damage, which you keep track on this tracker here, to the aliens. Because an important rule to remember is that the humans cannot destroy any of the alien pieces. They can only cause damage to them. And before I forget, one rule that could be easily overlooked is that the UFOs cannot be attacked by the humans. So a UFO could be here, and I try to use my guerrilla action card, which I'll explain here in a minute. I can't use that card here against that UFO. So I'll try to remember to mention that again later, but UFOs cannot be attacked, but the tripods can be attacked by the humans and alien buildings. And certain cards can be played on the aliens regardless of where the units are. So the board is set up here. I have 30 civilians placed in the regions, which are divided by these red or pinkish lines here. The aliens start out here with a crashed mothership with one building, and there's no special powers with that building. The reason why the building is there is because in order for the aliens to build other buildings, it has to be adjacent to that existing building. Starts out with one tripod and one UFO. The other buildings are placed here in counters for the humans and the aliens. There's an army unit here that the humans can get, but they don't start out with any. Here is the human supply deck and the starter deck. So the human starter deck is shown here with this icon, and there's 10 of them. So what you'll do is you'll find those 10 cards, and I'll go over with the anatomy of a card here in a minute, but you'll shuffle those 10 cards, and that will be your supply deck. So each player, the human player and the alien player, each start out with a supply deck. Here is the offer deck, and you'll see there's a bunch of cards here that will be shuffled. And 5 of those cards will be placed face up. That can be purchased with cards from the supply deck. So each player will be doing this, shuffling their offer deck, placing 5 cards out from their offer deck, and then of the 10 supply cards, each player will draw 5. So here's the alien player's offer deck. Shuffled up a little bit. And we'll place 5 of them out. Doesn't matter which order they go in. In some games, as you know, it can cycle through. You get a new one every round. But in this case, it doesn't matter what order they go in. So here are the alien supply cards. Gets 10 just like the human player. And we'll take 5. So the game is set up. After each player has their 5 supply cards from their supply deck and placed out 5 cards from their offer deck, now you'll take turns. And just like a deck builder, each player will play as many up to the 5 cards that they have. They can decide which ones to use and not use. Then they'll discard those 5 cards and then draw 5 new cards. At any time, if the deck runs out when they need to draw 5 new cards, they shuffle their discard pile to draw the remainder. So if I only have 3 cards left in my draw deck, I draw those 3, shuffle my discard deck, and draw 2 more to complete the 5 draw. All right, so the alien player goes first. So let's take a look at the 5 cards the alien player has. So let's break down the anatomy of a card. You'll see here, this icon is an action card. This is a starter icon. You notice here, the other cards in the offer have cost. So right here, you have to decide as the alien player, are you going to do the action above this line, or this action, or this action? So this action happens to have 3 choices. Now I can get, let me make sure I'm looking at the right thing here. Is there a damage icon on these cards? And where's the damage icon? Okay. This is a damage icon right here. And this is an energy icon. So human players have coins, aliens have energy. So if I were to do this action down here on the bottom, I would get 2 energy, but I'd have to remove this card from the game. And that's not necessarily a bad strategy because you can thin out your deck of cards you don't want to use anymore. So let's take a look at what I have here. I have 2 of these cards. I have this card. So I have 3 reap cards. When you're playing actions, you can play them on the same unit as many times as you want. However, when you're playing a unit card, see this is the unit card for the UFO, you could only use this card on one of their UFOs. So let me explain. Again, this is another one of those rules that people can overlook. So here I have my UFO card. It corresponds to the UFO I have on the board. Let's say at some point I have a second UFO. I would also have a second card in my hand, likely, unless I played it and for its discard cost. So I can activate either UFO. If I had a second one of these, let's say I did do the action that says here, again, I'm using the camera here from the human side. Let's say I do move one UFO unit up to 2 regions. Let's say I take the first action. Okay. So let's say I move right here. I cannot use another unit card on the same unit. So I've used that card for this unit. If I drew a second one in my hand on the same turn, I could play the second one on this unit. I can't do it on the same unit. However, I can use action cards on the same unit as many times as I want. So in this very first part of the turn here, I have 3 reapers. 3 reap cards, I should say. And so the top half is destroy 1 unprotected civilian token in the region containing a tripod. Or I can move 1 tripod unit to any adjacent region, or I can discard it to get 2 energy. I should say remove it from the game to get 2 energy. So because this is an action card, not a unit card, I can activate this tripod 3 times with these 3 cards. And in fact, if I were to have my unit tripod card, which is right here, I could also use this card on that same tripod. Again, just to reiterate, you can use a unit card on 1 unit. If you have 2 unit cards, you cannot use a second unit card on the same unit. But you can use as many action cards as you want on the same unit. unless the card says you cannot, like for instance, I'm going to show you the human gorilla card. It will say you could only attack with a civilian that hasn't attacked this round. So sometimes you'll have rules like that on the card. So here is the alien player. He's going to wipe out, let's see here. He's going to wipe out 2 civilians. So use the destroy 1 unprotected civilian. Now why would it say unprotected civilian? Because some spaces, civilians will be in the same space with an army unit or a building. So again, this is another very important rule. Buildings have to be destroyed first. Human buildings have to be destroyed first by the alien player. Then army units are destroyed. Then civilians are the last to be destroyed. Now, in the very beginning of the game, there's no humans have no buildings and have no army units. But let's say this tripod was here, and they had a building here with a bunker, and the bunker has an armor of 2. So, and then there's an army unit here. Army units typically only have one defense. There is a card that humans can get to increase the defense of army units, but right now army units only have 1. And that goes for ships as well, which the human players can get in place here when they get that card, and ships will sail around and can hit alien units off the coast. Remember, no human unit can damage a UFO, so even if this battleship was here and this UFO was off the coast, the battleship can't attack that UFO. Anyway, back to this example here. So if I were to play these 3 Reaper cards, okay, I could do 2 damage to the building, destroy it, 1 damage to the army unit, and then I have no other cards to play, and the 3 civilians are spared. So as a human player, what your objective is to slow down the aliens, protect your civilians, because that's basically your life. Once you lose all 30 civilians, you're out. In the meantime, you're trying to whittle away at the alien, cause the aliens damage. So anyways, in this example, if I had that building there, it would take 3 damage for that tripod to destroy the building, then the army unit. Okay, but we're up here. So in the very first part of the game, there are no civilians in this region with the crashed spaceship. So the tripod is going to move back here, then destroy a civilian, then destroy another civilian. Okay, the alien player has a UFO. The UFO can move, let's take a look right here. UFO can move one UFO up to 2 regions, or cause 1 damage in the region with the UFO unit, or cause 3 damage, and there are some buildings the humans have where you need to do that, in a region with a UFO, but then you would remove this card. Which means now that unless the alien had another card to activate a UFO, this card would be removed from the game, and then the alien then could not activate that UFO anymore. So that's some of the tension in this game is, when are you going to use cards for its removal cost to do a lot of damage, but then it will limit you into when you can move those units again. So the alien player is going to move the UFO. It says up to 2 regions. So he's going to get ahead over here. Try to race ahead, because the humans can be will try to build forts and things out here, and so the UFO can get out ahead to try to destroy those before the human player gets too much defense. Now the alien player has this card here, which is 1 energy. Could discard it to get 2 energy, but there's nothing here that I can buy. Now at the beginning of every turn, which I forgot to do, the alien player and the human player can decide to recycle a card. So we're going to recycle this poisonous gas card. Now you can play with the alternate rule that if you recycle a card out, it's removed from the game, but we're just playing the basic version. So you place that card underneath the deck, which means it could come back later. The alien player draws a new card, not anything Julie could afford, so she's not able to use this card because she only has 1 energy, or 2 if she discards it, and this costs 4, 4, 6, 7, 4. So the alien player, Julie, is done. These are discarded. Julie will draw the next 5, which is basically her starter deck. This will be her next 5 cards, and I'll just place it like this to show that that's not part of her hand. All right, so the alien player, which is pretty typical, the alien player is going to destroy a lot of civilians right away. Now the human player is going to go. All right, so here are the 5 cards I drew. I have relocate. I have a couple of those. And this is where you can use these to have your... Wow, I have a lot of relocate cards and 1 gorilla card. Well, this is actually quite nice. I drew really lucky here. So I only have 2 types of cards here. Let me show you the relocate card. So move any 1 civilian token to an adjacent land region. Or I can use it to get 1 coin, or discard it to get 2 coins. I'm sorry, remove the card from the game to get 2 coins. And I happen to have 4 of these. So if I really wanted to remove all 4 of these, I can get 8 coins. And I can buy as many cards as I want that I have coins for. I'll decide that in a minute. Let me tell you about the gorilla card first. So the gorillas will cause 1 damage. It looks like a coin, but it's a damage marker. It says here, you can cause 1 damage in a region with a civilian token if the token did not deal damage this turn. In other words, if the civilian did not attack this turn. Now I could cause 2 damage instead and remove this from the game. So, but it has to be in an area. Remember, I can't damage a UFO. Fortunately, I have a civilian here. I could damage this tripod. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play this, and I'm going to remove it from the game to cause 2 to the alien player. So I've caused 2 damage, and that card is now removed from the game. Now, one thing I need to point out, here's a rule that can be easily forgotten. Civilians can move out of regions with aliens. They can escape. I can relocate them. And that's one of the strategies that humans have, is that you can split up your forces and make it tough for the aliens to hunt them down. Army units, though, if they're in the same space with a UFO or a tripod, they can block each other. At least, I'm sorry, tripods can block army units. UFOs won't be blocked at all. So let me explain. So UFOs can move around and they can't be blocked at all. But if there was an army unit here with this tripod, neither unit can move out until one's destroyed. The civilian could move out. If there was 2 army units here, one of those army units can move out because the tripod only blocks one of them, and vice versa if there was 2 tripods there. So that's another rule to remember. So let's go back to my turn here. All right, so I have a whole bunch of relocate. I can get something for 4 right away. Now let me show you anatomy of a card here. Again, this is a unit. So when a human player or an alien player buys a card, so let me just do that right now. I'll buy this for 4. And I get a tank. I should say an army unit. Okay? So I get it right away when I purchased a card. Now, a rule to remember is I cannot place this army unit in any place where there is an alien building, a UFO, or a tripod. So in other words, it has to be free of any alien influences. So I think I'll put it right here just to slow down that tripod. So now I have this card right here to use it again and attack with that army unit if it cycles through my deck before it gets destroyed by the tripod. So that's the army unit icon. Now this is the building icon. I could have built a bunker for 3. It would give me 2 defense. And when you build a building, and this is for the aliens and humans, you build a building, you place it in a legal spot, and then you remove it from the game. So when you build buildings, you remove them from the game. So I replace, by the way, every time you buy a card, you get to replace that card with a new card before you may be able to buy another one. So if I have a bunch of coins, I can buy something first and then replace that card I just bought. So I used my 5 cards. I'm sorry, my 5 cards. One was removed from the game to cause 2 damage. I bought this army unit with my 4 relocate cards, and I placed the army unit. So now as a human player, I get 5 new cards, and it's a bunch of guerrilla cards. So I'll put this here to show that I've used those. So right now, the human player and the alien player each have gone once. There was another rule I needed to remember to say. Will come to me in a moment here. Yeah, the order, again, I just need to reiterate again, buildings are destroyed first, then army units, then civilians. The UFO cannot be attacked. The UFO can go anywhere it wants, by the way. It can even go out into open sea to destroy the battleships. Civilians can move in and out of regions. When the human player builds a building, it has to be in an area where it's free of any alien forces. And here's what I was about to remember. When an alien builds a building, it has to be free of any civilians. So, and it has to be adjacent. So an alien right now can't build any buildings in this region, this region, or this region because there's civilians there or human forces. So as soon as the tripod wipes this out, Julie could put a building here. All right, so let's go now to Julie's turn. Here's her next 5 cards. She has 2 reaps. She can move the she has 1 reap. She can move the tripod and attack with that. She has 3 power supply because she wants to get more power. She could place this. See, look, she could buy this building if she removes this card from the game to get 2 energy, +1, +1, that'll give her 4. But the problem is she can't place this building yet because there's no areas adjacent that are free of civilians. So she's going to have to wait to build that one. So instead, she's going to remove this card from the game to get 2. 3, 4. So she just spins those and gets the plasma synthesis, which basically can give her 2 energy when it recycles through. This is an action, not a building. She replaces that. She has a reap card. She's going to destroy that civilian up here. Civilian's gone, so that area is free now of civilians. So that's the card she played. And then she's going to, now she can use her tripod, because she just basically did an action with her tripod. Now she's going to use her tripod unit card. So she can move the tripod unit in any adjacent land region, cause 2 damage in a region with the tripod, and if she decides to remove this card from the game, she can do 3 damage. So she's just going to move it. Nothing to destroy here. She'll go here to try it. Now this can be risky though, because if the human player is not going to get to attack with that army unit this turn, because when the human player bought that, it would intend to the human player's discard pile, and the alien and Julie would know that I drew the last 5 of my starter deck, so I won't have that for a turn. So this is actually a safe move to do. So Julie just played her last cards. So now she's gone through her starter deck. The only new card she has is this plasma card. She did remove this card from her deck, so she shuffles them up. And then draws 5 new ones. So she's going to do a lot of damage. Probably won't be able to buy anything this turn because it's only a 2. She could discard it for 3, but that's next turn. All right, human player. Well, the problem with what Julie did by moving the tripod there, I can use 3 gorilla cards. In fact, I'm going to discard each one of them. 2, 4, 6 damage I'm going to do. Because there's 3 civilians here, I'll do 6 damage. 5, 6. And I remove the gorilla cards from the game. And now I have, again, that's how I play the game. I like to thin out my decks right away. Some people would be like, why are you removing all your gorilla cards from the game? Because I want to get other types of cards sooner. So again, that's just a strategy decision. Maybe I'm burning through them too quick. But anyway, I still have 2 relocate cards here. I can move some civilians. Oops, sorry. I can move civilians 1 space. I can have them leave there if I want. But I really want to buy some stuff. So I think I'm going to buy a supply depot. So I'm going to remove both of these cards from the game to get 4 coins. Buy a supply depot. So I get my unit here. So now what this is, I'll get 1 coin every turn as long as this building's around. Unfortunately, this is going to be destroyed by the aliens. So when I build a building, it's also removed from the game. And I have to decide where to place this. And I want to place this as far away from the UFO as possible. By the way, another little rule that can be overlooked. Any building that's designated a building has 1 defense, unless it states otherwise. All right, so I placed the building there. I'll get 1 coin next turn. I take my cards. Now look how thin my deck is. I only have 5 cards now. Now that could be a bad thing, right? But this is what I have. Okay, so I don't have any gorillas anymore, but I don't care. All right, Julie's going to go now. She has 3 reap cards and the tripod. She is going to use all 4 cards to destroy the 3 civilians in the tank. Now she could use it to get energy, but she's going to destroy things instead. So she plays those. So the tank is destroyed first, and she destroys the 3 civilians. Now, she has a 2 plasma left, or she can remove it from the game to get 3. She's not going to. She will cycle out this poisonous gas before she makes a decision, and she got another more expensive card. So she's done with those. She has her last 5 cards. She just draws them. So now she should be able to buy something next turn. She'll probably have to discard one of them to buy something. All right, so here I go as a human player. I have 1, 2, 3. My army unit was destroyed. So I'm glad actually it got destroyed, because now I can show you what happens next. I play the card to get a new army unit. So this card is basically associated with an army unit. As long as I have this card and there's no army units on the board, I play it to get a new army unit. So I'll play it over here in case well, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to try to slow down the tripod. I'll put it here. All right, so then I have 3 relocates. Would be nice to get a tank factory, but I don't have to discard them all. That's not a good idea. Oh, I have 5. I forgot. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Plus the supply depot makes it 5. So I have 5 to spend this turn. I'm going to cycle out a card to see if I get something better. That tank factory is really good. I don't know if I want to cycle that one out. It will give my army units 2. All right, so I can get another army unit, but I have 5 to spend. I would like to get that airstrike card, but I would have to discard 2 to get it. So I think I will. So it's 2, 4, 5, 6, plus the supply depot. So I'm removing these 2 from the game. I get my airstrike card. I don't get to use it yet. And then I put these back in my deck. So now you'll see I'm down to 4 cards. Oh well, but next turn I'm going to be able to do an airstrike. And hopefully, I'm probably going through cards too quickly here. All right, so then Julie would go. And that's how it goes, back and forth. I'm probably being too aggressive removing cards. I probably would rethink that. So if battleships come in, they'll move around and they can attack from the edges. Again, you can't attack the UFO. Let's see if there's anything else special. Oh, so in the rule book, when you place certain cards, you may have to look in the back as to how they work. So there's a nice appendix here. So here's the human side. It goes over the action cards, the unit cards, and the buildings. For instance, landmines are buildings. People have to remember that. You can't place landmines in the same space that you have a building. So it's important. Same with barrage balloons, which barrage balloons are pretty cool. If you'll see here, I have that card right here. If I buy it for 5, I can stop a UFO from moving into that space. But it doesn't stop the tripod from destroying it because it's a building. It only has 1 defense. So tripods will be able to destroy it. And in fact, other cards like poisonous gas and stuff like that, from the way I'm reading the rules, would destroy it as well. So then here's the alien cards on the back here. In fact, let's say, does it say anything about poisonous gas here? Let me read something real quick. Yeah, deal 1 damage in a land region adjacent to the tripod unit. And it causes 1 damage, so that means balloons as well. It doesn't say balloons are resistant. So that, again, it's a very simple game. There's just some real small details that if not played right, it can give an advantage or disadvantage to the human player or the alien player. So I hope you enjoyed this playthrough. This how to play of War of the Worlds, a new wave. If we get 100 likes, we'll play the expansion, the Ireland expansion, and we can include some of the Kickstarter exclusive cards in there as well. So I'm David. Thank you for watching RP Gamepire. Please remember to like and subscribe. Have a good day.